Well, damn.
So now we learn from the Bible how these walls got here. Hello out there. Today we're going to get a little deeper into the creation story. And in order to do that, we got to take you out of the Sunday school lesson and bring you into the Enochian seminary classes. All right. In our Bibles, all we are told is, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning were the first day. All right, we could go with that. But there are some people who want to know what really happened. And if the book of Enoch was never taken out of the Bible, we would know this. And I'm going to read from Enoch, this is second Enoch, the 27th verse. All right, it says right here, and I commanded, let there be taken some of the light and some of the darkness. Now remember when we said, let there be light. Notice the sun is not even here yet. So today you're going to learn about this light. Now this light is a different type of light that we're used to seeing. This light is, I want to say, programmable, but this light is a tool that the Most High uses to create other things. So everything that is created comes from the light. It's like the hammer of the spiritual world or something. I don't know if I'm putting it right, but anyway, he took the light and the darkness and made water from the light and the darkness, because it says, let there be taken some of the light and some of the darkness. And I said, become thickened. So he made this light, some of the light and some of the dark, become thick and become water. It says, become thickened and be wrapped around with light. So that light again, he took the light and made some of the light and some of the darkness water, and then he took light again and wrapped it around the water. Now, we're going to tell you what this water is. This water is really the ice wall. So let me show you. He said, and I said, become thickened and be wrapped around with light. And I spread it out, and it became water. All right, so this is water from some of the light and some of the darkness became water. I want you to hang in there with me because this is kind of complicated. And I spread it out above the darkness below the light. So think of this water having the bottom of it being darkness, and at the top of this water being light. Now the sun is still not here yet, but this light has created water, and then it's darkness under the water and it's light above the water. And it says, and thus I made the solid waters, that is to say the bottomless, and I made a foundation of light around the water. Now notice, there it is again. The light is around the water. All right, but this light is going to end up being an ice wall. And I created 7 great circles inside it. All right, let me give you an example of what's going on here. All right, remember this picture. This is another picture that I have off the internet. All right, you're just using this for an example. I don't want people messaging me and telling me that's not how it is. I'm just using this as an example. Think of 7 of these. That's just 1. That's 2. Think of 7 of them. And you got 7 of these with a barrier around all 7 of these. It's a barrier around them. So a big, huge barrier around all of these. All right, think of that first. Let's go back. All right, it says right here, and thus I made the solid waters, that is to say the bottomless, and I made a foundation of light around the water. Now it's the light around the water that's going to be the ice wall. And it's not the ice wall yet. It says, and I created 7 great circles inside it. So he took this one big circle, and put 7 of them, smaller circles, inside this one big circle. And I gave them an appearance of crystal. Now he's working on solidifying them, wet and dry. That is to say, glass and ice. Now they're solidified, and to be the circuit for water and other elements. What did he mean by circuit for water and other elements? Let me go back. All right. These are circuits. So remember I said there's 7 of these. So each one of these, the circuit, this is the water that the circuit of the water and the wind. It said the other elements, wind, rain, snow. These are the circuits that those elements follow. All right, let's go back. All right, and I pointed out to each one of them his route to the 7 stars. He's talking about the 7 stars now, which is one of them is our sun. I pointed out to each one of them his route to the 7 stars. One of these are the sun, our sun. Each one of them in his own heaven, so that they might travel accordingly. So, back to here. Each one of these have a star in it. This is our sun. Our sun is the star. The star here, star. All of these 7, basically 7 different stars. All right, let's go back. All right, that should be okay. And I made a division between the light and between the darkness. That is to say, in the middle of the waters, that this way and that way. Now, what is he talking about right here? Now, it's starting to get a little bit complicated. That's what it seems like. It's getting a little complicated, but let me explain that too. Because this is right here, between the light and between the darkness. That is to say, in the middle of the waters, this way and that way. And I said to the light that it should be day, and to the darkness I commanded that it should be night. And evening came, and again morning came. Let me explain what that's saying. He made a separation. So the sun is coming from the east like this, going under the earth, report to the north, come back down to the east. So when the sun does this, guess what? Now it's darkness. This is the separation because the sun is under. When it comes back, now it's come back in, light. So it's separating the darkness. Now the darkness moved out. The light is here. Going back under, now it's dark again. This is the separation he's talking about. He said, in the middle of the earth. Let me see it. Let's show it again. In the middle, where it says, that is to say, in the middle of the waters, this way and that way. So when we go back, we find that the portals, 6 portals here, 6 portals here. This is the middle. This is what he's talking about. All right, let's move on, because this is getting interesting. All right. Then it says right here in verse 28, it says, and thus I made solid the heavenly circles. Now the domes are solid. The light that was there is now solid. They're domes. And I said, let the lower waters, which is below heaven, collect itself into one collection, and let its waves become dry. Now the water becomes dry, and he's going to make rocks out of the water. And it happened like that. And from the waves I created rocks. See that? He created rocks from the waves, solid and big. And from the rocks I assembled the dry land and called the dry land earth. So he made the earth from these rocks, the dry land. Not the earth itself, but the dry land, he called it earth. And what was in the middle of the earth I called chasm. That is to say, bottomless. The sea I gathered into one place, and I bound it with a yoke. Now this is a yoke. This is a yoke. A yoke goes like around a cow's neck or something. This is yoke. This is the sea being bound by a yoke. All right, let's go back. The sea I gathered into one place, and I bound it with a yoke, and said to the sea, behold, I give you an eternal boundary, and you will not break through from your own waters. And so I fixed the solid structures and established it above the water. Solid structures, what is that? I wonder if these are solid structures. And then notice what it says. Solid structures above the waters.
I don't know about y'all, but this is very interesting. Like a lot of people would not see the different information that's out here because you're so closed off to looking at somebody else's point of view and the way they break down things. But I think this is very interesting. Let me know if y'all tracking or you get what he's saying or anything. Just let me know in the comments down below how y'all feel about this. But I think it's interesting.
When you look at this,
How does time and seasons work on a flat Earth? Well, our realm is an electromagnetic terrarium surrounded by an ethereal sea of water. The sun and the moon journey above our flat Earth, rotating in concentric spirals. There are 5 prominent circles of latitude. First, there's the Arctic Circle, which is closest to the center. Then the Tropic of Cancer at 23.5 degrees latitude in the northern hemisphere. Next, the equator at 0 degrees latitude. Following that, the Tropic of Capricorn at 23.5 degrees latitude in the southern hemisphere. And lastly, the Antarctic Circle. The sun journeys from the equator during the March equinox, moving up in a concentric spiral to the Tropic of Cancer. Whenever the sun is in this position, the northern hemisphere experiences summer, and the southern hemisphere experiences winter. After that, the sun turns and begins making its way back to the equator. The word tropic stems from a Latin word, tropicus, which means pertaining to its own. The sun journeys back, taking the same concentric spiral path, reaches the equator again, and then keeps going until it reaches the Tropic of Capricorn. When the sun is in this position, the southern hemisphere experiences summer and the northern hemisphere experiences winter. Then it's back to the equator for the March equinox. The equinox occurs when the sun's journey is around the equator, and those living along this line of latitude will see the sun directly overhead at a 90-degree angle, especially at solar noon. The March equinox marks the season of spring in the northern hemisphere, and the September equinox marks the season of autumn. If you reside in the southern hemisphere, this is reversed. The September equinox marks spring, and the March equinox is autumn. Our sun never reaches the Arctic Circle, nor does it reach the Antarctic Circle. It never reaches our poles. It journeys to the tropic circles and then turns back, which we call a solstice, meaning the point at which the sun seems to stand still. It stops at the solstice because it does.
Notice any curvature while we were up there?
Curvature, no.
No, there's no curvature?
It's just all flat.
They began flying it around the world, from Abu Dhabi last year, with stops in India and China, then across the vast Pacific.
Does running around your neighborhood prove that the neighborhood is round?
I was an airline pilot for Delta for 26 years. A pilot's primary flight instrument is his artificial horizon, which he has to be maintained level to keep from climbing and descending. From a cockpit, weather permitting, I could see hundreds of miles in all directions, viewing cities connected by roads across the flat plain as far as the eye could see.
This world is not what you think it is. This world is not what you think it is.
My guy. So I see that a lot of people are starting to believe that the earth is flat because they always questioned rainbows. And I got the answer for you. So as y'all know, the rainbow is a sign as a promise that God made to never flood the earth again. So we finna make it make sense. Alright, so scientists tells you that in order to make a rainbow, you need a mirror, water, and light. A mirror as in glass. Alright, so let's take it back to Genesis in the Bible. So remember, we live on a flat surface with a firmament over us. And above that firmament is water. And below the firmament is water. Hence, why it was so easy to flood the earth when God decided to do so. He opened up the firmament, allowing the waters from above the earth to come through, and also the water below the earth to come from underneath the ground, making the flood happen quickly. So basically, if we being honest, those snow globes y'all be seeing, that's literally us. So back to the firmament. So remember, you need a mirror, which is glass, light, and water to create a rainbow. See, God said when he created the firmament, he spread it along the sky, which was strong as a molten looking glass. So when it rains and it creates that arc shape from one end of the earth to the other end of the earth. Now remember when I told y'all that the Antarctica ice wall is actually the end? And that's why nobody is allowed to fly over it or to go over there nowhere near there? But they want to lie to people and tell them that there's actually more land. But in reality, that's where the firmament is. See, because what y'all don't know is the Antarctica ice wall is 360 around the Earth. That's where the edge is actually at. And that's why nobody is allowed to ever go near there. So whenever y'all are wondering why the rainbow is shaped like a dome, here's your answer. The strong, molten-looking glass that God said the firmament is, that's that mirroring glass you need to create a rainbow. The sun as the light and the waters from the rain above the firmament. This is his promise as a rainbow is stretching from one side of the earth all the way to the other side, showing y'all that he will never flood the earth again as it reflects off of the firmament. So to questions like this, science basically gave you your answer. Glass, the firmament. Light, the sun. And water, the rain from above the firmament. Praise Yah.
So you may be asking yourself, how is this guy so sure that the earth is flat? Flight paths makes it pretty obvious. Now, in this flight, they made a stop in Amsterdam, which on the globe would make no sense. Why wouldn't they just fly from here straight through and stop in Africa? Here's another one that won't make any sense. Why did they go all the way up to Calgary here when they could have landed, somewhere in America? Okay, this one's gotta be seriously obvious to you guys. From London to Pakistan. And they emergency landing in Moscow. Why did they land it down here around, and the most obvious one of all, my favorite. These guys landed in LA. If they had, just look, guys, it's on.
You heard of such a thing as no-fly zones? For instance, you can't fly in certain areas near Arctic Circle or the Antarctic Circle. The reasons being is because there are lands there we're not supposed to know about. I'll give you one example. Sir Captain George Hubert Wilkins, a contemporary of Admiral Byrd, flew beyond Antarctica, and he said that he found there many lands and peoples 5,000 miles beyond Antarctica. They are excluded from all of our maps. The globe is a container, and it's a container of all the known land. That's why international pilots have such a thing as no-fly zone, because they don't want those lands to be discovered.
I'm not allowed to say certain things, but this is how they hide everything.
Doesn't anybody know that Zen Garcia proved that the Earth was flat in a court case in 2019? Yeah, that's right. All that he wanted was somebody to prove that the Earth was actually curving 8 inches per mile squared, or going 50 miles per hour at least, spinning. And they say that we're spinning 1,000 miles per hour. And both of these things seem to be really hard for the heliosexuals to prove. He actually won in court not only once, but twice. Bottom paragraph halfway down. William Thompson applied to the contest but was never able to produce not even one real-world verifiable scientific experiment which would or could confirm the rate of curvature as decided upon the mathematicians and scientists themselves should the Earth be 24,901 miles in spherical circumference. He even gave some awesome sources on why the Earth is in fact a level plane and not an oblate spheroid. Please pause and read this.
I still haven't convinced you that Antarctica isn't a continent, but an ice wall that surrounds our level, flat realm? Well, stick around. We're going to get into it a little more, and hey, that's a funny name for an island. Let's start by looking at this little known fact. Do you know that Antarctica is the highest continent on Earth? The average elevation is 8,200 feet? That's pretty interesting. Not only is it the highest, but it's the highest by a landslide by over 1,000 feet. Now, why would that be? Could it be that you're living on something like this, where water lays level like it always does, and it's surrounded by a container known as Antarctica? You need to ask yourself, have you been programmed to believe something that isn't true? Because we always see that water lays level. It never looks like this, no matter how far you can see straight out or left or right. Water is always level. And did you know in 1946, the United States government sent a fleet of Navy ships down to the Antarctic ice wall and not continent in a little operation called Operation High Jump? That's a curious name for a continent.
Who blazed the way for Operation High Jump, the great expedition of 1946-47. Admiral Byrd was officer in charge of the project. The rest of the Argosy pushed on, right up to the ice barrier of the Ross Sea. Up to the ice barrier of the ice barrier of the Ross Sea shelf.
You see, they say that operation was about potentially seeking out and destroying a German base down there. But what I believe it was is exploration past the ice wall and seeing what was beyond, because we didn't know at that point. And what I think happened is they found the firmament. They found the barrier keeping us all here in this realm. Because the stories that came back after Operation High Jump were highly suspicious. They talked about seeing alien crafts and things like that, even to the point where Admiral Byrd put out a statement saying that he was worried that attacks in the future could be coming from the air, not the sea. You see, I don't think this Operation High Jump was about anything but testing the limits of where we live. Just like the Tower of Babel in the days of old when they were trying to reach the heavens, I think they were experimenting to see if there's a way out of this realm we live in. Just like SpaceX and NASA are doing when they're sending things up to test the firmament. They're not going to space because space isn't what you think. You've been programmed to think that we live in this realm with infinite space, and you're programmed so deeply that you believe water can curve over a ball and that we're moving 1,000 miles per hour. It's not true. We live in a level, flat realm, where Antarctica isn't a continent, but an ice wall that surrounds you. And if you like this content, or things like it, and you're interested in some gear, check out my store, fittestflatearther.com. And as always, this information was just for entertainment purposes, not even serious.
Doesn't anybody know that Zen Garcia proved that the Earth was flat in a court case in 2019? Yeah, that's right. All that he wanted was somebody to prove that the Earth was actually curving 8 inches per mile squared, or going 50 miles per hour at least, spinning. And they say that we're spinning 1,000 miles per hour. And both of these things seem to be really hard for the heliosexuals to prove. He actually won in court not only once, but twice. Bottom paragraph halfway down. William Thompson applied to the contest but was never able to produce not even one real-world verifiable scientific experiment which would or could confirm the rate of curvature as decided upon the mathematicians and scientists themselves should the Earth be 24,901 miles in spherical circumference. He even gave some awesome sources on why the Earth is in fact a level plane and not an oblate spheroid. Please pause and read this.
We look at their rockets. This is how they claim they get into outer space, is these rockets. Their rockets never go straight up. Every single rocket launch from a government space agency, you'll notice, follows a parabolic curve. It goes up, it reaches a peak, but what they do is as the rocket starts coming back down, they make sure that it goes down over the ocean, out of the way of any curious observers. Anyone can see it coming back down to Earth, asks, hey, how come the rocket's not going up anymore? Well, it's going around the curvature of the Earth, is what they tell us. So every single rocket, the reason that it follows a parabolic curve, they say, is because it's going around the curvature of the Earth. The real reason is they can't get up any higher than that.
The only thing that's been to space is your imagination.
They tell us that the Earth is a sphere. They show us pictures of a sphere, of a circle. It's a perfect circle. And then they come out and they say, well, it's actually an oblate spheroid. Oh, what's that? Well, it's a sphere that's flattened at both poles, so it's more of an oval shape. It actually bulges out south of the equator, as well as being flattened at the poles. So it's more pear-shaped.
So it's not actually a sphere. It's oblate. And officially it's an oblate spheroid. That's what we call it. But not only that, it's slightly wider below the equator than above the equator. little chubbier. Yeah. Chubby's a good way. It's like pear-shaped.
So now it's pear-shaped. So why are all of these official NASA photos and videos showing perfect spheres when it's actually an oblate spheroid or a pear-shaped spheroid? They can't get their story straight. The reason they keep changing it is that to fit the model, they have to change the shape of the Earth. South of the equator is larger than north of the equator because lines of longitude that just extend outwards, they don't contract back. So they concede that in their pear model. They say, well, the side bulges out south of the equator. It's bigger south of the equator. Yeah, it is, because it's flat. But instead of admitting that, they just, make tweaks to their model as time goes on. They say that the ball Earth tilts back 23.5 degrees. That's another tweak they made because we can see Polaris, which is right over the North Pole, from 23.5 degrees south latitude. Shouldn't be able to see that on a ball. So they just tilt the Earth back and then okay, now you can see it. And so they come up with explanations in reverse like this. Damage control, reverse engineered explanations.
One thing I really want your generation to embrace is that the Earth is a closed system. We cannot leave the Earth. There's no place to go.
Rockets don't have brakes. It literally stopped. All of that angular momentum from the rotation of the rocket and the linear momentum from flying up just stopped. No, it had to have hit something. But what did it hit? If it hit a solid surface, the rocket would have been destroyed, and most likely the camera too, so we wouldn't have the footage, and obviously that's not the case.
Kicks and deals. It's a long fly ball going back, and the ball shatters the sky, bringing the ocean itself down into the stadium. Oh, Simpson just broke this dream's reality wide open.
I know we have still not shattered that highest and hardest glass ceiling, but someday someone will, and hopefully sooner than we might think right now.
There's no place to go.
Although we weren't able to shatter that highest, hardest glass ceiling this time, thanks to you, it's got about 18 million cracks in it. And it may be hard to see tonight, but we are all standing under a glass ceiling right now.
Can I blow your mind right now? Okay. If the center of the Earth is hot, why is the bottom of the ocean cold? Right? Let that sink in. So you're closer to the source of the Earth's heat, but the water is colder. It doesn't make sense. So Chris and I were talking about this because we were flying to see our sister last summer, and we're going over the ocean. And I said, make it make sense, Chris. Scientists expect us to believe that the center of the Earth is 100% pure lava, which is liquid fire. You can look this up. So shouldn't the bottom of the ocean be boiling water? Well, it's not. It's cold water. So there's only one explanation for this. There's only one explanation. And that is that the center of the Earth is actually frozen. And if this is a hard thing to believe, you just have to look to the evidence. And who gives us the evidence? The same scientists that try to tell us that the center of the Earth is hot. Okay, so if you really want to go down this rabbit hole with me, ask yourself why 50% of scientists say that the dinosaurs were killed by the Ice Age, and the other 50% say it was because of volcanic eruptions.
Well, if the center of the Earth is frozen, what comes out of a volcano? I think you know where I'm going with this.